morning. So my name is Kara Corbin Lickfett, and I'm here today to speak to you about transformation as it relates to my personal experiences. I want to discuss some career and personal transformations that I've experienced and how they've shaped the person that I am today. These are my experiences and not a blanket study on women having careers in science. And I benefit now in retelling them because some time has passed and I can kind of look back at where I started and see how it's changed who I've become. So a little background about me. I grew up in a small town called Ridge Farm, Illinois, which has a population of about 1,000 people, located in east central part of the state, which if you don't know anything about Illinois, it's 150 miles south of Chicago. That's what I tell everybody. I grew up surrounded by my mom and dad, one sister, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. I attended the Quaker church in my town with my mom's parents, and I went to the public schools. My parents were teachers in the same school district. My mom returned to work when I was about 10. And only now looking back do I realize how much we did with so little. The people that I knew that seemed wealthy had dads that worked at the local GM plant about 20 miles away. And wealthy to me, at age 10, meant that they had a pool, which I didn't have. They got their hair done in salons instead of grandma's house. And they had a Barbie dream house, which I never got. We camped for all of our vacation, no hotels, and we rarely ate out. My parents spent a lot of their money on piano and violin lessons for my sister and I. I started piano lessons at the age of 4 and violin at 8. My sister and I had the reputation of being the town musicians because nobody else were taking those kinds of lessons, and we often played for our church services. It was a very conservative upbringing in that we were expected to do well in school, go to church, and stay out of trouble. I felt supported by my parents, I still do, but I learned not to take risks, ruffle anyone's feathers, and just do what I was told. I started to think about what I wanted to do with my life as a career after starting a summer job at the age of 12. I worked in the corn and bean fields for my uncle and received my first paychecks. Agricultural labor is very hard, but it creates a sense of camaraderie with your coworkers in that you're all miserable. So let's just make the best of it and get out of here. I learned I hated to give up because it was easy to give up in that type of work. And I found ways to motivate myself internally to finish the day, no matter how miserable it was. I did not want to be one of those people who quit during the day, went to sit on the bus and watch the rest of us finish the job. I also learned I like to earn my own money, and I started to buy my own clothes and my own electronics gadgets. I got more sunburns than I should have. And after 7 summers of working in the fields, I decided I preferred air conditioning. My various jobs since the corn and bean fields have included a switchboard operator for a newspaper, data entry, worked for a college admissions office. I managed the greenhouse at the college that I went to, and eventually I went to graduate school and was a graduate student. I went to graduate school to study microbiology. It was a subject in college that I enjoyed, and I qualified for a full tuition waiver and stipend, to be paid to teach undergraduates while I worked on my degree. So it was not going to cost me anything to do it. I started in the fall of 1997, and this was at a time when it was not uncommon to find some women professors in the science department. They made up about 20% in the department that I joined. It was true that there was pretty much an equal gender breakdown of the entering graduate students when I joined. It was about half male and half female. It had never occurred to me that women would not have professions in higher education, especially science fields. And to hear my female professors describe the all-male environments that they had to succeed in, it didn't sound like something familiar to me at all. My women professors only had male mentors as an option in higher education and were outnumbered by their male counterparts. I had been given many opportunities by my professors in college, and I did not feel I was treated differently from the male students. I ended up joining a lab that studied bacterial pathogenesis, and I struggled. In retrospect, I realized I joined a boys' club and should have never picked this lab because it was not suited for my personality. All the other students were male, and I did not mesh with them. And that combined with the fact that I was still trying to figure out how to succeed in this new environment. And it meant that I was not confident at all in myself and my abilities. I had attended a very small liberal arts college where I did fit in well, and I succeeded there. But this new place was much bigger, was high pressure, and I was just not sure how to tackle it. I felt overwhelmed, rebuked when I asked for help, and I was slowly slipping into a depression. I also felt the male professor treated the other students warmly, joked around with them, and seemed to give me the cold shoulder. These were my perceptions at the time. The last straw came for me when I told my professor that I had gotten engaged to be married. Instead of telling me congratulations, he said, "Are you going to quit?" I'm not sure if my mouth dropped open, but I was aghast that he would think that about me, because the last thing I perceived myself to be was a quitter. Of course I was not going to quit. This guy obviously had no idea who I was. My parents and fiance would have never asked me that question. It wouldn't even an option if you knew me. It's completely possible that a female professor would have asked me that question because I had been struggling to succeed in my courses. But in my mind, it became clear to me that I did not have a supportive mentor. It's a blur to me the actual steps I took next as I was trying to remember this story, but the end result was that I joined another lab that studied viruses. And I graduated with my PhD in 6 years, even after losing a year in the other lab. I don't know where I found the courage to switch labs and continue on in the same department with a professor that I did not feel treated me fairly. I started to gain confidence in my new lab, found that it didn't matter what the project was, I could apply myself to doing the work and learning this new field. In retrospect, it was a huge risk for my female professor to take me into her lab. She was newly hired, her first job as an academic researcher, and she had no other students. Now she'd agreed to take on a student that left another lab, in a sense poaching me, but she did it anyway. We excelled as a really great team, her and I. I excelled there. I went to scientific meetings presenting my work, completed all of my degree requirements, and I even was awarded the top graduate student award my last year. I had completely transformed myself from the person who started graduate school. I was confident, I was respected, I was a good teacher, I was an author, and I was ready to take the next step in my career. And that is why I'm here in California. That's what brought me here. I was offered a research job at UCI, and I worked with another wonderful female scientist for another 6 years before taking a pharmaceutical company scientist job. I do not recognize the person I was my first year in graduate school. She was overwhelmed, not confident in her abilities, and unable to find solutions to problems. But after 5 years with a supportive mentor, I was confident, not overwhelmed by new projects, and I had the ability to tackle them. I think part of what I describe in this story is typical of what people go through in their 20s after college when we're trying to figure out what we're good at, what career we're suited for. But I also think it shows the importance of the people you encounter at this time of your life and how that shapes you. I was lucky to find the courage to change my situation, find a wonderful mentor, have a supportive family and husband during this time who believed in my abilities even when I was doubting them. I also want to emphasize that I saw plenty of women thrive in environments where their advisor was a man, and I've had some wonderful bosses that were men. The difference between their experience and mine was the culture fostered by the advisor. The male advisors in those productive experiences supported all of their students equally and did not create an environment that pitted the students against each other. I've also seen female advisors that were horrible mentors for young women. It's not a black and white thing. But I have met many over the years that make it their mission to help women succeed in science careers. In the April issue of the Science News magazine, there was an article summarizing how there has been an evolution since the 1960s in how kids perceive who a scientist is and what they look like. If you asked a child to draw a scientist in studies conducted between 1966 and 1977, 26 out of 5,000 drawings depict a female scientist. That's 0.6%. Recently, a group summarized data from over 78 studies that are more recent and compiled them from 1985 to 2016. It included more than 20,000 US children ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade. In those data, if you asked a child to draw a scientist or describe one, 28% are now drawing a woman. So that sounds good. 0.6, 28%. That's real good data. Well, here's what they found also. Girls at age 6, in the most recent study, so from the 2000s, they'll draw a female scientist 70% of the time. But by age 16, only 25% do. So they conclude that even though more young girls see females as scientists when they are younger, they are still susceptible to gender stereotypes and do not identify with scientists as they mature. I experienced this phenomenon as well because in that my science interest has never wavered. It did become a topic of criticism and teasing from peers because they did not see what I saw in choosing that as a career path. It just wasn't what people normally did if they were a woman. But luckily there are a lot more women scientists that promote environments for women to succeed in science. My current boss fits that profile. I recently left my job in Tustin and took a virology scientist job at a small company in San Diego. I was not doing any more virus research at the company I was at here because the company had been cutting back and I was kept on through a lot of those cuts, but I wasn't doing any more of the microbiology research that I love. So I went back to my roots and transformed back into a virologist and took the leap of working in San Diego for a small company that supports viral drug research and development. This means that our family is now going through a major transformation regarding our geographic location. And this transformation has been really challenging for me. On one side, I get to do something I love and I'm good at, but I have to move to a different city to do it. When I first moved to California, when Jay and I first moved to California in 2003, we moved 4 times in 4 years. It was rough. And it has felt good to be settled since then, only having moved once more since then. I naturally, because it's who I am, feel a lot of guilt about transforming my family's life, but I'm also trying to show my daughter what is possible for women. And just recently I asked her what she wanted to do for a job when she gets old enough. And I ask this question periodically, and she always tells me she wants to be an artist. So recently she told me she didn't want to be an artist anymore. She might like to be a scientist. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Marley Chen, and it's a beautiful day to be out and about among my friends here at Tapestry, and it's a day to talk about transformation. And to me, what that means when I manage to get to Tapestry is that each and every time I'm here, I am transformed. I always feel something inside myself when I come to Tapestry, and it's that feeling of transformation, but today I get to speak it out loud and share it. I have this dream sometimes, and when I'm trying to get to sleep, I have this, it's more like a nightmare. I am on a boat in the ocean, trying to get to my destination, get to solid ground, get to dry land. But the ocean is large, and the waves are tremendous, and I'm bobbing up and down. And the stuff that's making me bob is the news cycle, the current events. You have crash, national elections, and you have lightning, which is economic realities, and boom, you have geopolitics. And it's an ocean I would like to be a master of, but instead I'm just a sailor, trying to survive the storm, bobbing up and down on the ocean. And I wonder, how long will my luck hold out in this dream? Will I ever get to harbor? Will I get to sleep? Will I make it to dry land again? And as you can hear, this is a dream with a lot of anxiety. And I'm sure many of you here share a similar dream of anxiety. We all, as we get older, we deal with conflicts and battles in our own lives. Our own personal histories get entwined with world history, and that's a reality that becomes very clear as I get older. And this anxiety just bubbles up from the daily grind of what I do to survive. For example, there are days when I'm at work and I've planned to call an old friend during lunch, and there's also on my to-do list an errand I needed to get done for my wife. And I've been diligent at work, and I've gotten all the boring, mundane, daily stuff done, and there's something exciting on the agenda, something that's more strategic, that might get more attention from the higher-ups, and something I can really sink my teeth into in the afternoon because I've cleared the decks. And then I get a call from my boss that there's a fire to put out, and that ends up consuming the afternoon. And it's 5 o'clock, I have to get ready to leave, I haven't gotten that fire put out yet, and I haven't called my friend, I barely had lunch, and I know I had to bring my work home with me. And there's some weeks where almost every day, it's a day like that. And on those weeks, sometimes I give myself a pass, and I stay holed up on the weekend, catching up with my work, and I don't show up for Tapestry. And then comes the following week. And the following week, I know I should go to Tapestry. It'll help me. But the momentum has been taken off. And even though I've caught up at work, there's this anxiety hangover I have. I haven't read the communique newsletter. I barely know what's going on at Tapestry. I feel unworthy to show up. Still, I make the effort to show up, and this is where the transformation happens when I walk through the door. It's always surprising to me how easy it is to come through the doors. I always feel glad that I've shown up. That feeling of unworthiness always fades away instantly. And I feel stronger at the end of the service than when I first arrived. I always feel fortified with hope. I feel fortified because whenever I'm among you, my fellow congregants, I am witness to love in action. I hear an update about the work being done here for the Orange County Friends of Immigration Detainees, or I see the work being done to make Tapestry more diverse and a force for progress on race relations. Or when my children are able to participate in RISI, I find that their friendships here, although they've been out of touch for a while, are still real. That's the transformation I'm talking about today, that sense of hope I feel each week when I can make it to Tapestry. As I accumulate my years of membership, of being part of Tapestry, that transformation keeps happening, of finding hope and gratefulness each time I come to Tapestry. I make the effort, I show up, and I always receive more than I expect. And I'm transformed by hope and gratefulness each time.